Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In our previous video we learned how to map our faults and also showed some tools that are very helpful in mapping our faults. So you can, I think I forgot one thing, you can also take your surveys to fit with your faults so that you can see how your faults looks like in your seismic. I think this is what I forgot, so I can show you the seismic volume so that you look at how it looks like. So this is it. Now we are going to learn how to map horizons, and in our horizon mapping we are going to do just this. You come back to your interpretation window where you mapped your faults. Then I prefer you change your color back to seismic defaults. Then you open your seismic interpretation as I did earlier. You also need your time slide as we did. Then before you start mapping your horizon, in your inline, which is already activated, you move your time slide backwards to the beginning, and in your cross line, which is your X line, you move your time slide also backwards to the beginning. This is very important and a lot of people forget about it. So in our inline, we will pick our first horizon. As I said, the horizon is mostly the top of the reservoir, though we've not done a seismic well tie, but I'm showing you how you're going to do it after a seismic well tie. So let me zoom in here a bit so that I can see what I'm coming to do. So these places are really heavily faulted, so I'll prefer to have this red amplitude, this high amplitude, the red one, as my horizon. Then map it. To map your horizon, this is the default interpretation where you have to map it yourself. This is the guided auto tracking. This is 2D guided, and this is 3D guided, and I prefer working with a 3D guided if only you're working in a 3D environment. So you track your bed. Your horizon doesn't need to cross your faults. That's why you have to map your faults earlier so that it doesn't cross your faults. And when you see these blue steps, you have these blue squares, you need to be careful about that, because it could be that there is a fault, a small fault over there that you didn't notice. So you have to be careful. So this is basically how you're going to map your horizon. And after mapping your horizon, you need to generate a mesh. So this is how you generate the mesh. After me mapping in my inline, I go to my cross line. Then I see how it looks like. So this is my red amplitude. This is my red amplitude. It should be But if it is not showing, if there is no blue color here, then you can't be sure of what you're seeing. So you can move the time slide forward in your inline and continue. You see, as we moved our time slide forward, it has mapped some of the features for us, the same bed for us, so that we can see and visualize which bed that we mapped for our first horizon. So I'll continue the mapping, join some few steps, make sure I don't cross a fault dense area, then come back to my cross line and see. Now I can see tracks of my bed in my cross line. I can see tracks of my bed in my cross line. So this is the bed that we are working on. So over here I'll have to, there is probably a fault here, so I have to leave that space. And note, your horizon is not supposed to cross a fault dense or any faults. If you are unsure of an area, you leave it. And since you are using auto tracking, the software itself will try to do something for you to get a better horizon. So the ones that I think they are visible, I'm working on them. Then I'll leave the rest to the mercy of the software. This is why it is very important for you to set your location and parameters, so that during this auto tracking, the software will know what exactly it is dealing with. So I've mapped the little that I can see. I move forward. I continue my tracking process. So this is basically what we do. So this is another side of it. You have to be careful when doing it. You have to be very, very careful, because if you are not careful, you are going to map the wrong lithology. So after that, I go back to my inline, then I go forward. I continue tracking my faults, my horizon. Continue tracking my horizon till both time slides ends. This video is going to be a bit longer than usual, because this processes that we are doing is a bit time consuming, so we will have to go beyond the usual time that we've been looking at. So we map the little we can, we leave the rest to the mercy of the software. Then so I'm trying to map this place, but because the software itself, so I've made a mistake here. That's why I come back to my eraser, then I clean them. So I leave the rest for the software. Then, as I always say, we go back to our inline, continue our time slide, then map. So this is how we map. this is how we map in the Petrel software. This is how you map your horizon. Okay, go forward. Our mapping continues here. So I leave the rest, come back to my inline, continue. So this is what we are going to do throughout this whole mapping process to get our grade, and you have to finish all the time slide till the time elapses. So from what we've just done, we are just here, so we will have to continue. So understanding this will make it easy for you to create the mesh. So when I talk about the mesh, I'm talking about something like cells or boxes, or let me say something like a net. So let me display the little that I could do for you to see. And this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. So because we are doing inline and cross line, this is what we see, because we are doing inline and cross line. So this is the inline section that is building from this side, and this is the cross line section that is building from the down. So if we were able to finish, we would have gotten a squared or rectangular shaped, and the spaces that you see in it, the places that aren't colored, that there are spaces, are the fault dense areas that we left to the mercies of the software. So after showing you this, I think you're good with the horizon, and in our next video we will talk about how to make surfaces. So thank you for watching. Bye.